this profession to a full contact sport. And because of that, it involves many skills that are similar to an athlete: talent, coaching, team play, and execution skills. Very similar to a sport. It's also a numbers game with a very unattractive win-loss ratio. It is a 90% failure-driven activity. Sales is a failure-driven activity. So how many of you got up this morning and said, hey, you know what? It's going to be a great day. I'm going to fail at 90% of everything I do today. All right. Not too often people enter their day with that type of attitude. And I'll share something with you right now. It's not a 90% failure-driven activity. Enterprise sales is much closer to a 97% failure-driven activity. So it's about dealing with that 97% and pushing that out of your way and focusing on closing that 3%. And it can be a pretty brutal and unrewarding task, working with the majority of the people that you interact with that you end up not having as a customer. So there's a lot of disappointment that comes along with the sales function itself. Now, everybody at MIT has their own algorithm, their own formula. I'm no different. I'm going to share with you my formula for sales, enterprise sales today, and it's SW cubed over N, and that stands for some will, some won't, so what, next. This is the attitude that you have to be productive in sales and to survive and even thrive in a failure-driven profession. The technical founder is always the first salesperson in a startup. Why? Because you have intimate knowledge of the offering, the customer, the need, the value. You have much more knowledge about this than anyone on the planet. And you also have this distorted view of reality. You've innovated something. And because of that innovation, you have sort of a skewed view of the world that's necessary to overcome being a new company and having a new product. So you have this strong reality distortion field that's actually you use to your advantage. And of course, just as important, you need to be on the front line here and understand firsthand all of the issues that are blocking customer traction and adoption of your offering. This early product feedback is essential to figure out how you're going to hone in on your product market fit. And it's the requests that you get from customers and the rejections that provide you very valuable fuel for your product roadmap. So this is where you make the transition as a founder from a vision-driven company to a market-driven company. You start to impact your product roadmap based upon feedback from folks because they failed to write you a check or they did write you a check, and now that starts to confirm and validate, in many cases, enhance your product roadmap. I can tell you from my personal experience working with both from an operational perspective, an investment, and a board, and a mentor perspective with startups for the past 20 years, startups will fail almost 100% of the time when the technical founder believes that hiring a salesperson will solve the sales dilemma. The first salesperson in a startup is not something that you outsource. If you want your startup to fail, outsource sales to somebody else, bring in a professional salesperson, and ask them to figure out who your customer is. You will fail. It will probably set your startup back at least a year on a good day.